and Stacy Collins.
Well, welcome back. We are talking about building an engaged culture and the 5 C's, the foundation of that engaged, healthy culture. We've talked about the power of communion, our prayer practice, going within, listening to that divine wisdom within us. We've talked about connection and how important it is to be cultivating friendships as part of our culture. And we've been talking about compassion, and compassion is oof, this one is so powerful. Stacy, talk about compassion in your ministry at Unity of Houston and what you see in terms of what's happening in your small group communities.
Yeah, this one it's so huge because um, part of our spiritual walk and just our daily lives, we have challenges and we want to feel supported. As you mentioned, the woman earlier who wasn't reached out to by her spiritual community, and maybe they didn't know about her situation. But what's beautiful when you have people engaged in small groups is that people check in on their lives. They know, and as you said, if they miss a week, oh, okay. If missed 2 weeks, okay, what's going on? Or even if they seem a little bit off, there are people that know them and are willing to support them, and that they may even feel more comfortable, something they may not feel comfortable right away going to a minister about, well, is this important enough or whatever? They bring it up to their small group. And we have just seen such compassion arise from our groups and support for one another. Oftentimes, if someone does have a health challenge, this happens all the time now. By the time the minister finds out, oh, my spirit group's been bringing me, soup and lunch, and they came to visit me. So the spirit group's already in there, doing the work of pastoral care.
Mm-hmm.
And it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I was at one community, and it was a place where I was doing a workshop, and I had done a workshop the year before. And so when I was coming back, I was seeing some people that I had recognized from the year before. And one of the women, I was like, how have you been? What's been going on? And she said to me, she said, I asked how things were going at the church. And she said, it's okay. She said, but I feel like if I didn't show up again, that nobody would really notice. If I didn't show up again, I don't think anybody here would really notice. And that was sort of that's a thing to think about. Like in your community, if you have a member and they decide to stop showing up, how long does it take you to notice? When you have a small group infrastructure where, we always say, set an intention that you've got, 50%, that's a great goal. And once you get to 50, 80%, we've had ministries that I've worked with that have had over 100% engagement, which means you have as many people week to week engaging in the small groups as you do attending the Sunday service. People are as engaged in the small groups as they are on Sunday. When you have that, no one's falling through the cracks. No one's falling through the cracks. And a lot of times I'll have churches say, Mindy, my people are so busy, I can barely get them to church. I don't want to start some new thing because I can barely get them to church. And the truth is, the reason it's so hard to get them to church is because there's like, you don't have to try so hard when there's incredible connection and value coming to them. And the small groups will supplement that. People who will tell you they don't have the time will find the time because the connection, that human connection, is so powerful, and it will have them be more engaged in your community as well. So all of these are foundational to a healthy, thriving community. So that's compassion. Now, I'd love to hear stories. So know that Stacy and I are sharing our stories, but if you have stories you want to share, we'd love to hear from you as well.
Yes, so give us a call. We're at 816-251-3555. We'd love to chat with you.
Yeah, share your stories or ask your questions. We are here for you to support you in creating a healthy culture. And maybe you're thinking, hey, yeah, that sounds great, but bring it on. Bring on your butts, because I've probably seen it. I can give you some. You probably
Mindy could overcome butts like no one else. I know.
I can overcome some butts. I certainly can. All right. So we've talked about communion. We talked about connection. We've talked about compassion. The fourth C is, oh, this one's a beautiful one too. The fourth C is community. Community is about taking your mission outside the walls of your church. We talked about this a little bit when we talked about mission, how if your mission is only about, we are a vibrant spiritual community, it's all about me, it's all about us. A mission is designed to be bigger than you. Your I have a dream, like that wasn't about Martin Luther King. That was about humanity. So what is your mission outside of your Sunday operations, or outside of, what happens inside the walls of your church? What are you here to do in the world? And it might be transformation, so that that transformation obviously is happening in your community, but it doesn't stop there. If your mission is transformation, then that transformation is happening beyond the walls of your church, whether somebody is giving to your ministry or not. If you're here to transform lives, you're here to transform lives. So community is about getting outside your box and rolling up your sleeves and bringing your mission to the streets, bringing it to the world in a broader way. Stacey, I cannot wait to hear what you have seen in your community at Unity of Houston related to community.
Yes. So the last two bits of our purpose statement are that we transform lives and transform our own lives so that we may serve the world. And when you said taking it to the streets, I thought of a literal time when we are been taking it to the streets over the past 18 months. We have our Unity in the Community organization. That's our outreach part of our church. And they had this great opportunity. There's some amazing leadership on that team to connect with the Houston Food Bank and to be a food distribution center during the pandemic. And they had been giving out some food, but this was taking it to a new level. And of course, it's all beautiful, but you need a lot of volunteers for that kind of thing. And so this was a perfect opportunity for our small groups. It wasn't about just getting one volunteer at a time. You would get 8 volunteers at a time because they would be volunteering with their spirit groups. And once they would do that once, they would have so much fun doing it and get so much, when you do sacred service, it really is giving and receiving all in one moment. And so they would get so much out of it. They would just volunteer to do it again and again. So that's been amazing.
I love that. You make me think of Steve Morris. Steve Morris was a group leader at Unity of Arlington, and he had been very active. He is very, very active in the community. And he was so excited to do spirit groups because he was able to bring his small group into an organization that he already had a passion for. But what he did is, and he was working at kind of a soup kitchen for people that were living with HIV, homeless shelter. And they would go and make dinner. And I remember he said it was what he loved about bringing his church community into this service opportunity was that they were able to take the ideas and the principles that we talk about and put them into practice. So it wasn't about just going and serving food. They went very intentionally. They would say, okay, now you're going to serve food, but you're going to sit at the table and connect because that connection is what we thirst for, what we hunger for, just as much as the food. And so they would bring out, there was somebody playing the accordion. They would dress in tuxedos. They would bring flowers and dessert and have these amazing experiences for the people that were residents. And he said in the beginning, people were scared. In the beginning, people were like, I don't know if I want to go. I don't know if I would feel safe. And then he would get them to go, and he would see the transformation that would happen when they would go serve together. And then, like he said, you just get hooked on it. So
yeah,
it's powerful.
And what I hear there too, Mindy, is that that was outside their comfort zone, but because they had these relationships and other people were willing to do it with them, right? They weren't going in alone to try this. They felt supported enough to try this. And then, yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. I love that.
And it's amazing how many people, once you're out there, people are out there with their spirit group shirts on or with their church t-shirts on, and people are like, who are you? What are you doing? And it's a great opportunity to say, this is what we do. We've had churches that have, they just set up a spot and they do, the brown bags for the homeless, and like, here it is. We're going to give away socks today. We're going to give away backpacks today for the kids. We're going to give away, here's stuff. We're just going to take it to the shelters. And we've had people work at animal shelters. We've had people go cleaning for women's shelters. And it's really amazing to see what people have done. I also, I love that there's so much creativity, because during the pandemic, there were some like, oh, we can't serve, it's a pandemic. But there were others that were thinking differently and thinking, of course we can serve because there is a need. So how do we serve? Like the how do we serve becomes different. But having that small group that you can brainstorm, like, what can we do with the resources that we have? And we've had groups that have written letters to people. We've had groups that have become technology experts for members of the congregation who don't know how to use technology. And so they became computer aides and went to their houses to make sure they could connect with their families on Zoom and with their church on Sunday. It's so expansive. It's so expansive to see what we're able to do and create when we set an intention that we are here, yes, for ourselves, yes, for each other in our small group, yes, for our church community. We are here for the world. We are here for a broader purpose. And to do that together is so, so rich.
Yes.
So, got community stories? Give us a call.
Yes. Give us a call. We're here, 816-251-3555. Give us a call. We'd love to hear that.
Yeah, ask your questions. And, feel free to post us, reach out to me or to Stacy. You can find us on Facebook, just send us a message and let us know what your questions are, because we're happy to answer them, in this episode or future episodes as well. That's why we are here. So you can pick our brains and we can share with you everything that, everything that we can cram into an hour is kind of what we're doing. All right. So we've talked about communion, connection, compassion, community. The fifth C is, drumroll, challenge. And this one is so important because I've seen it. I felt it in my own life. I've seen those times where you get on the spiritual path and then you go through the course, or you go through, your first year, and you kind of feel like you got it. Like, okay, I get it. Answers are within. Pray, meditate. I got it. But there's more. And how do we stay fresh? How do we challenge ourselves on our spiritual journey so that we are always looking for our next level up, our next area of expansion? So challenge is, that's why we integrate curriculum into all of our small groups, that there is always an opportunity to learn something new and to apply it to our life in a powerful way. So what does challenge look like at Unity of Houston, Stacey?
Yeah, so, I this one, I know I already admitted that I was going to say this. This one might be my favorite now. Challenge. But I recently had a teacher of mine say something that I thought, oh my goodness, that's what happens in small groups. She said that all spiritual growth and transformation happens in relationships, is relational. And so that's what happens when you join a small group. You have to participate, right? And you usually are going to participate a little bit outside of what you thought you might originally be comfortable with. And there's vulnerability happening there. There's authenticity happening there. And what you get to do is, it's so wonderful. I love to go into Sunday service and just soak up that beautiful energy and to be inspired and have that experience of communion. And then through the week, when I'm putting this into practice and I think, I didn't do that quite right. Something doesn't. To be able to check in with my spirit group and say, you know what? Let me tell you, I had some great things happen this week. And then I don't know why, something triggered me or something. And just to have that support and to hear other people's experiences, you're transformed just by that, by being witness to other people's experiences too. So, I can't stress enough that this is what it's about. It's not just about people getting together for social interaction. That part's wonderful too. There's a lot of fun that happens, but there's something deeper that happens when you get together to talk about these spiritual ideas in your own spiritual walk.
Yeah. And I think, one of the challenges that I hear ministers talk about a lot is, people leaving through the back door. They come in, they experience a few Sundays, like, okay, this is nice, this is great. And then they wander out the back door and we never see them again. And I think making sure that we have an infrastructure in place where people feel like I'm getting something out of this. It is challenging me. My relationships are better because I'm showing up to this. My prosperity is flowing more effortlessly because I'm engaged in this. My relationships are healthier, that my life is better because I'm able to go through the challenge of spiritual growth with the support of a living community. And so small groups create the structure for that. I've heard it said that transformation happens in circles, not in rows. And, as much as we as ministers love to have those aha moments, I really have always held that my job as a spiritual teacher is to create a point of focus. There's nothing that I can say that they don't already know. I can say it maybe in a funny way or an interesting way or an entertaining way, but ultimately my job is to create an area of focus that I feel like will be of best service. and then to give people an opportunity to put that into practice, to talk about it and see how it relates to their life. If people don't feel like their life is changing, if it is just a social club, if it is just, oh, I have some friends that I have coffee with on Sunday morning, we listen to some nice music, we hear an uplifting message, and it's lots of fun. That's a social club, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's real easy to wander away from that. It's really easy to drift away from that. When you're in a community that notices when you're trying to wiggle out, that notices when you're hitting your resistance, and can say, we're here for you. We're going to hold your hand through this. It is incredibly powerful. And people experience change. If that's your mission, is to help people create change, then challenge is essential, that we have ways to challenge each other. I always like to have with the groups, in our first meeting, we run in series. So we have these 10-week series, and we will typically start out a series with we call it week 0, because it's before the curriculum actually begins. It's a time to connect, just to get to know each other, get to see, like, what are we going to talk about? But let's really just set some ground rules, talk about confidentiality and all that kind of thing. But also to set some intentions, like, this is what is bringing me to this group. This is where I'm at. This is how I want to grow. And then here's the big piece. At the end, when we get to week 10 and we get to the end of the series, to be able to revisit those commitments and say, okay, this is what I said I wanted to get out of this series. Did I play out? And if I didn't, where am I holding myself back? What are the things I can overcome? So yeah. Any other thoughts on challenge?
Well, I did have a thought that it almost sounds like to me, oh, well, you might have the question, are people wanting this though? Do I have to be challenged? I don't know but I have been amazed just in our last series. I decided I would host 3 different groups. And 2 of the groups I didn't know any of the people in. And we went from week 1, we're kind of dipping our toe in and they're sharing a little bit. By the second week, people were sharing what they were working on at such a deep level. You would have thought these people had known each other for weeks, months, not 2 weeks, and it was just because the tone is set right from the beginning of what we're here to do. And when we are here to help each other, spiritual chess, we're not giving advice. We're not telling each other how to do it. We're here to witness and support. It's like, oh, people are ready.
That's such a great point, because I think a lot of times we think, oh, I don't want to push them too hard. I don't want to ask too much. I don't know. Do people really want to be challenged? I had the opportunity to speak at a wonderful, I'll share this because, at Unity, Columbine Unity in Boulder, Colorado, the minister was taking a sabbatical. So I was one of their guest speakers. They had this rotation, and I came in, I kicked off his sabbatical. I was there so he could take a rest. And then at the end, it was like a 6-week sabbatical. So I spoke at the beginning, and I also spoke at the end. And they asked me, what do you want to speak about? And I said, well, in the first one, let me talk about these 5 C's. And then I said, in the last one, I will go deeper on whichever one they want the most. And so in my talk, I gave a poll. I let them all check off, of these 5 C's. When I come back, which one do you want me to go deeper into? Which one do you really want to take on? And it was overwhelmingly challenge was where they wanted to go. Isn't that fascinating?
Yes.
Overwhelmingly of the 5, that's where they wanted to go.
So they want it. They may not admit they're wanting, but they did in this case, right?
They did. Yeah, they said, we want it. Like, challenge us. Let us rise to it, because it's fun to rise together. And that's really what a healthy culture is about. This whole idea of building healthy, balanced ministries comes from Rick Warren and his Saddleback Church, his purpose-driven church. And what Rick Warren talks about, and I highly recommend reading about their small groups program. It is legendary. They've been doing this, I think, for 5 decades now and having incredible success. So he talks about when an organization is healthy, that the natural state is that it will grow. When an organization is not healthy, you don't want it to grow. Like when it's not healthy, you don't want an unhealthy thing to expand, right? So he says, focus on health. We tend to focus on numbers. we tend to focus on, what's the prosperity level? Like, are we paying the bills? Like, how many people are here? Are we growing? Are we shrinking? And his idea is, which was radical at the time, is don't focus on the numbers. You might measure the numbers because it's a good feedback mechanism, just like you would take your temperature to see, are you healthy? But it's not about the temperature. It's about, am I healthy? What do I need to do to be healthy? A healthy person is a growing, expanding person, and a healthy organization is a growing, expanding organization. So when you focus on health, and health being, how healthy is your culture? Are people feeling prayed up and on purpose? Do they know what your mission is? Are they aligned with it? Congruence to me is also, do I align with the mission of this organization? Does it feel like my soul is being called into service for this higher thing? That's communion. That's that awareness that this is mine to do. Are people feeling that? Are you integrating that into your culture? Are you integrating healthy, happy friendships into your culture? Are people there for each other, or are they just showing up like to a class and then see you next week? Maybe if I show up, if I can, or, are people serving the community? Are they thinking outside the box, or is it all an inner journey? And are they challenging themselves? I like to use the metaphor of breathing because to me, when you look at these 5 disciplines, the first 2 are like an inhale, like that communion practice. It feels so good when you like, oh, I think there is that divine presence. Yes, I am present. I'm feeling it. I am aware of it. It feels so good. And connection, like being able to bring that into relationship and friendship with others, so powerful. It's like a deep breath in. It just feels so good. But if all you ever do is breathe in, it gets uncomfortable. It's not healthy.
There's gonna be trouble.
There's gonna be trouble. There's gonna be trouble. And I think a lot of times in the past, the culture of New Thought churches has been very much an inhale type of culture. Like, let's go within, go within, go within, go within, go within, go within. Eventually, we got to let it out. We got to let all of that awareness express through our actions. And that is what compassion is. It gives us the exhale. That is what community is. It lets us exhale to take all that love, to take that awareness, to take that enlightening experience out into the community. And then challenge to me is, okay, now that we're breathing in and we're breathing out, and we're breathing in communion and connection, and we're breathing out compassion and community, the challenge is really like, okay, now how deep can I go?
Right.
Like, now I'm not shallow breathing anymore. Now I'm going to deepen that breath.
Yeah.
I'm, go deeper and deeper and deeper with it. So that is the basis of healthy community. We did it, all 5 in an hour. How about that? So that's kind of exciting. So as you can tell, huge advocates of small groups. Small groups are where you can train your group leaders. And that is why this is not just give them a facilitator guide and off they go. This is about, when we talk about small groups, we're talking about training your leaders. And we do huddles every week with our new leaders. We do trainings every month with our experienced leaders. This is not like one and done. This, like, your group leaders are ambassadors of your culture. And so to be able to have that kind of leadership training, Stacey, talk a little bit about what you do to stay connected with your group leaders and to make sure they're supported in the work that they're doing.
Yeah, just as you said, we have our host huddles, and those are wonderful. We sometimes do them virtual, sometimes we do them in person. We also, I think it's also important, in addition to the training and the huddles, to have something fun. We did a fun self-care for hosts back in December. That was really great. And just to remind them of they're not out there alone. And I think that's an important thing, is just to let people know that they're being supported, to check in with them, to keep them inspired too, that what they are doing is so much greater than what happens even in their group. Yes, there are amazing things happening there, but the ripple effects of each small group are being just, you can't even see where they go, but they're going out there to send in love out throughout our community and beyond.
Yeah, your group leaders are ambassadors of your mission, and they are some of the most important, the important people to be training and to begin. I love a self-care day for your host. How fabulous to be able to have them connect and share and grow together as a team within your ministry. That is just beautiful and powerful. So the challenge always leave with a challenge, right? So the challenge as we wrap up this episode is to do an evaluation of you could look at your life, you could look at your group, you could look at your organization, and look through the lens of these 5 things: communion, connection, compassion, community, and challenge. And ask yourself, where am I strong? On a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being is not there at all, to 10 being I can't imagine it any better. Like, what would you rate yourself in each of those 5 areas? And then to go within and reflect on, if I were to take one to the next level, which one would I choose? If I were to nurture one for this fall series and really cultivate that in my life, in my group, in my organization, which one would I pick? And we'd love to hear which one did you pick. So reach out to us. You can find me on Facebook. We have facebook.com/SpiritGroups. I do consulting for New Thought churches. So if you want to go deeper or talk about, but my church is different, call me up and I'd be happy to work with you and your church. Stacy is a great resource for those of you doing small groups as well. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Stacy. This was fun.
Yeah, so fun. I can't wait to do this again next week.
We'll do it next week. And next week we are talking about the money mindset of a mission-driven leader. Ooh, it's going to be juicy. We'll see you next week on The Leading Edge. See you next time.